Hello everybody, I am ThrashManiac99, back at it. For the first time in quite a few months, I am doing a whole band's discography review. And for this one, and this is a special series due to having the 700 subscribers, so this will begin one of three things that I have to do to celebrate the 700 subscribers, including the Q&A, which is coming up next weekend, the 700 subscriber race, which will be coming soon, and then, of course, the Opeth discography review series. And so what I'm doing, I'm going to be reviewing all of Opeth's studio albums, except for the new one, because I already reviewed the new one this year, Pale Communion, and it ended up number 4 on the top 25 album of the year list for me. So I decided to come on here, and we're going to be reviewing the first 10 albums. And we're going to begin, for our first episode, we're going to review the first album, Orchid. Now, Orchid, actually, for backstory with Opeth, 1990 was one hell of a year for heavy metal. Not just because of some albums you had come out that year, like Megadeth's Rust in Peace, Judas Priest's Painkiller, Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss, Pantera Cowboys from Hell, Entombed's Left Hand Path, Deicide's first album, Celtic Frost Vantany Nemesis, Napalm Death Harmony Corruption, Death Spiritual Healing, Cannibal Corpse Eaten Back to Life. There was just so many great albums that came out in the year 1990. But it was also a year for new bands to emerge. And one formed this year and created a musical revolution, and that was Opeth. Now, we had heard before, in the latter part of the 1980s, entering the 1990s, with the expansion of death metal, where you would get sort of jazzy / prog death metal with bands such as Cynic and Atheist, and bands along those lines, but they were more jazz than prog, but there was some prog elements to them. There was really no band out there that was co-mingling like traditional 1970s prog rock with death metal, and Opeth was that band to mix both sounds. But with this album, Orchid, they were able to bring in some black metal influence in Mikael Akerfeldt's vocals, with like the raspy, screamy stuff. And also this album was produced by Dan Swano, who was from Edge of Sanity, and he's also been like good friends with Mikael Akerfeldt for so many years. And so they had a really good relationship back in the day, where they also both were part of bands like Catatonia and Bloodbath and other groups that they were in together. But Dan Swano was at the production helm for this album, and it was raw production right here. It was very raw, kind of almost black metal-like, but not crap sounding. It was more just like to me, it wasn't really a black metal production. It was more of like the production you would hear from the Swedish death metal bands like Entombed, Dismembered, and Dark Throne's first album. That kind of production sound is what I got from this album. But with this album, it's a three-way mixture of death metal, black metal, and progressive edginess to it. And so you kick off the album with the song In Mist She Was Standing, 14 minutes, and you have a lot of long songs on this album. And that song, In Mist She Was Standing, was a great opening track, the longest track of the album at over 14 minutes. That song just had so much going on. Just beautiful soundscapes. Where at 1 minute, it's like you're hearing the soundtrack to the apocalypse with some of the brutality going on, from the pounding heaviness of the music, as well as Michael's voice, whether it's deep, low black metals, death metal stuff, or the high screaming black metal vocal delivery, or his clean vocals you would hear at some points on this album. But with that track, it just really was able to set the tone for what Opeth's career was going to become, and that was a great track to make a statement from. Under the Weeping Moon, pretty much every song on this album was phenomenal, but Under the Weeping Moon, which was a little under 10 minutes, it was a phenomenal track in its own right. I mean, with a lot of beautiful acoustic guitars going on, and then the first instrumental, Silhouette, which I probably destroyed. It's a 3-minute instrumental, and I really loved how it was done with the pianos. It was really, really beautiful sounding. Forest of October and The Twilight is My Robe, 2 long songs, with Forest of October being 13 minutes and Twilight is My Robe at 11. Both tracks just had something unique to it, where it was just well put together, beautifully rendered, and just wow. Requiem, which was the second instrumental, had 1 minute, a little over a minute, the shortest track of the album, but it was a beautiful acoustic instrumental track. But then you end off with The Apostle and Triumph to close the album, and just wow. Beautiful track to close such a great album out. Now, with the album, some people find it hard to kind of get into this album because of its raw production value. But with the production, you can hear every instrument and the vocals pretty well. It's just kind of in that raw, vain sound to it. Kind of like the first Dark Throne album, or the first Entombed album, or the first Dismember album, or something like that. So, it just had that real raw quality to it. The musicianship within the band at the time was well immense. I mean, Mikael Akerfeldt is just another one of those guys who's able to pick great musicians to play in his band, and just wow. And he's got a gift of that. The instrumentation on this album was really well done, though the later albums I start to hear a lot more better stuff going on within the music of Opeth's career. So, to put it in the simple terms as far as the sound of the band, it's death meets Yes, pretty much. It's like you're hearing the death metal brutality of Death mixed in with the instrumentation and the beauty of Yes, and you get Opeth at this point in their career. But for their first album, this was a great CD to get into for Opeth. I mean, some people may find it hard to get into because of its production values, but really, at the end of the day, it's all about how the music is presented, not just about production, slick production or anything like that. While I like slick production, sometimes rawness is very cool, and I thought this was a cool, raw, progressive, blackened death metal, whatever you want to call it, album. This was just a great CD to get into. Not my favorite Opeth release, but it's definitely a great album. I give this album a 9.25 out of 10. For a debut album, this was a great, great album for Opeth. I feel a 9.5 to a 9, or 9.25 to a 9.5. I give it a 9.5. Why not? 9.5 out of 10 for Opeth Orchid. For anybody out there who's watching who are big Opeth fans, what did you guys think of this album? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you have to say about it? Let me know in a comment. I would love to hear what you guys say. But Orchid, great album to kickstart the career of one of the best heavy metal bands to come out in the last 20 years, Opeth. And there you go. The next album we're going to be touching on later on is going to be their second album, Morning Rise.